Boston Celtics versus Toronto Raptors. That's how we're going to kick off the second round, man. This probably is going to be one of the hardest predictions to make in the playoffs so far. We have the defending champions, the Toronto Raptors, coming off an incredible season with breakouts from Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam. This team is loaded. And then you have the Boston Celtics with one of the best wing combos in the entire league. People don't really talk about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as much as they should. Everyone talks about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I feel like with the great defense that both of these players play, and with the fact that they're just now entering their offensive primes, these two could be huge problems for the league going forward. Now the Raptors, as I predicted, had a very nice sweep against the Brooklyn Nets. Not much to say about that series. They shot the ball really well, but that was expected against the Brooklyn Nets. The Boston Celtics beat up and dominated the 76ers just as I predicted. I actually had them winning in 5. They ended up winning in 4 in a very convincing manner. Rest in peace to the 76ers in the process. Can we get a moment of silence?
Rest in peace!
Taking advantage of a 76ers team without Ben Simmons, who are basically trying to play them in the paint by having Joel Embiid just sit there all day, but they were running nice screens, getting their shooters to come off the dribble, and they were very successful in that regard. But they did suffer a huge injury in that series. Gordon Hayward is out with an ankle injury. And off first glance, I really thought to myself, the Celtics should definitely win this series. I was thinking maybe 6 games, maybe 7 games. But then after the Gordon Hayward injury, I reevaluated the Celtics roster. They are very top heavy, meaning I love their starting lineup, especially when Gordon Hayward's in it. But a lot of their scoring comes from rather Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, or Jaylen Brown. And their bench is almost non-existent to compare to a Raptors bench who's been hot all playoffs. Now the main way the Celtics have been scoring in this series is basically running screens off the 3-point line and rather having Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, or Kemba Walker come off the dribble, which they can all handle, or they'll come off the screen off the dribble and take a 3-point shot. And considering that all 3 of these players are really good off the ball shooters and just great 3-point shooters in general, if you don't have an elite defense, these 3 players will go off on you all game long. Well, it just so happens that the Raptors technically have the #1 scoring defense in the entire league. This defense has a lot of length and they're able to switch without really having any mismatches on defense. They play the 3 really well and they protect the paint with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. So this is a very well-rounded defense. Now the Celtics this year have won 3 out of the 4 matchups that they've played, and really this matchup has been favorable towards the Celtics because one, they have been defending the 3-point line really well. I mean, they're allowing like 24% in the playoffs in terms of 3-point shooting percentage. They've been good all year. They're probably one of the best perimeter defenses in the entire league. And the Raptors have proven to be one of the best transition offenses in the league, getting a lot of their points in the fast break situations. And the Celtics just happen to be really good at defending that and getting a lot of turnovers from it. So when I'm analyzing this matchup, I'm looking at this as more of a lower scoring, higher emphasis on defense type of matchup. And if the Celtics did have Gordon Hayward, you could argue that they have 4 of the top 5 or the top 6 players in this playoff series. And for the delusional Raptors fans out there who think Kyle Lowry is better than Kemba Walker,
Yeah.
now I kind of giving you a picture of how both of these teams stack up, but you're like, man, where's the prediction, man? Who's gonna win this series? I really want to know. And to that, I'm gonna say the Boston Celtics defense, who outside of Kemba Walker can basically switch on any man that the Raptors have without there being any serious mismatch, can keep the games low scoring and actually keep them very close. And if they had Gordon Hayward or any semblance of a bench, I would say that they have the better firepower on offense, so they'll be able to outscore them in the late 4th quarter. But the thing is, even if Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown average 25 points per game, which would be 75 points per game throughout this series, which is not going to be a walk in the park against this Raptors team that has OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, who can guard both of these players, where is the rest of the offensive production going to come? Now, in the beginning of the bubble, they had guys like Wanamaker having production, and they had 17.5 points per game coming from Gordon Hayward. There is a big gap, a big void there that the Celtics are going to have to figure out a way to fill. See, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown can get their buckets, which I mentioned before will not be an easy task against this great Raptors defense. But the Raptors also get good offensive production from guys like Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, and Pascal Siakam. And not to mention, Serge Ibaka this season is scoring 15.4 points per game, shooting 50% from the field, 39 almost percent from the three-point line. They're getting great production from someone that's not part of their big three. And I haven't even gotten to what I believe could be the deciding factor in this series, and not just the fact that Gordon Hayward is out, but the fact that the Toronto Raptors have a guy in Norman Powell who's kind of been balling out this season, averaging 16 points per game, shooting nearly 50% from the field and 40% from the three-point line. I think that he could be the deciding factor in this series if he can average about 16 to 18 points per game and shoot really well from the three-point line. It's going to be very hard for the Celtics to match all of that offense. So now when I'm making the final pick for this series, I know that this is going to be a really good series. I know that it's probably going to go to 7 games. Is it enough for me to believe that these 3 players can carry a very non-existent bench against a team that has 5 solid scorers on offense and arguably one of the best defenses in the league, who happen to have a better bench, who during this playoffs is scoring the most points per game? So the only way I could really lean towards the Celtics is if I think that Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and even Kemba Walker are going to have really good scoring outings in the series. I'm talking not just 75 a game on that. Like, I'm thinking they might average over 80, 85 points just amongst those 3 per game. Or if there was someone on their bench who I thought could step up in this next series. I believe that the Boston Celtics depth is going to come back to haunt them. When the starters go to sit down, they're going to start to see that the leads start to fade away. And Brad Stevens is not going to have that much of an option. He's going to have to play the starters a lot more minutes than he really wants to. It seems to me that the Toronto Raptors have an advantage. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pick the Toronto Raptors to win this series in 7 games. Now, the thing that really got me to change my mind throughout the week was this post that I saw in one of the comment sections in a YouTube video I was watching. Man said Raptors will win for the sole reason that Kyle Lowry's thick, plump booty is so distracting when he's on the court.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
No, on a serious note though, the reason why I'm picking the Raptors to win this in 7, I've kind of already said it, man. Lack of depth, and it's just gonna require the trio, the 3-man band of the Boston Celtics to score more points than I think they can on this really good Raptors defense. And I think the Raptors are going to come out to ball. They are the defending champions. They're going to come out, they have great playoff experience, and this is a matchup of really good coaching. Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse, who just won Coach of the Year, well deserving by the way. And I really can't sit here and say a player like Gordon Hayward, who was averaging near 18 points per game, was getting rebounds, was just a great overall player. Just him missing from that lineup that is very shallow in the beginning and doesn't really have that much depth is not going to affect them. I really just don't see anybody else on the Celtics that's going to bring consistent scoring in this series like a Norman Powell or a Serge Ibaka could bring, and even some of the bench players that the Raptors have. But yeah, that's gonna be all. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave a like, it really helps the YouTube algorithm. I will be making more content regarding the other matchups in the second round of the playoffs. I'm really glad that the NBA is resuming play. I've been loving what I've been seeing out of the playoff basketball. And yeah, I'm gonna see y'all. I'm out.
Majima, that's me. Majima the king. The grand is my scene. But I'm coming to sunshine. Green the tree. Up in the banyan. Up in the B. I be up in the bag. Hey.